all of us are in poverty, and that goes back to why we talk about the 91 million tons of food. Like, we don't have a food problem. There's plenty of food,
right.
But why doesn't it get to the people that it needs to? Why do we pour so much into education and yet teachers are still underpaid, right? Like, why do we have all these churches on all of these corners, and yet we still have people who haven't heard the gospel, we still have people who are getting hurt from church and walking away from the faith, right? Like, why do we have all that? And it shows you all of these broken relationships, because when you have broken people who create broken systems, they in turn create more broken people.
Well, Brandon, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, what's
up? Why don't we start with this? You introduce yourself, tell us what you do, the ministry that you work for, and any interesting little facts about yourself, maybe.
Oh, man. Okay, cool. Yeah, so my name is Brandon Williams. I'm I'm a little sick, so that's why my voice sounds all crazy. Oh. So, yeah.
I didn't notice.
Okay, cool.
You've had that deep, rich voice ever since I've known you.
It's deeper now. Yeah, it dropped like 2 octaves since last night.
Nice.
So I'm the executive director for Galveston Urban Ministries. So, on paper, we're a 501c3 Christian nonprofit, just working for poverty alleviation, right? But not typically in the way that you would think of poverty alleviation. And so we can get into that in a little bit for sure.
Yeah. I was just wondering what that was. Backpack fell over. You're fine.
Oh, okay.
So poverty alleviation. I remember as we went there, we went for a spring break mission trip for people that don't know. And there's a lot that actually constitutes, well, maybe not a lot, but just kind of, there's a good definition for what constitutes as poverty and all that sort of stuff. But before we get into that, how about you tell us about how you got into the ministry?
Yeah, so I moved to Galveston probably 11 years, 12 years now, and I've been a worship leader for a really long time. I came down there, helped start a church with a buddy of mine, and then Josh Dorrell, who was our founder and my boss before I took the position. He had reached out to my pastor and was like, "Hey, do you think I'm looking for a part-time volunteer guy? You think Brandon would be interested?" And I had another job offer that was like full-time, good benefits, good pay, but I wanted to stay in ministry, and that was not a ministry job. And so I went over there and just heard his heart for community, for the poor, and man, was just kind of blown away. And so I stepped into that job and just watched how God used Josh to keep pushing me to places that I didn't want to go. Like we needed an interim youth director, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that, because I was really awkward in high school. And it's like, there's no way, students already scare me because they could be mean. That was my thinking back then. And he's like, just try it till we find somebody else. Man, you know how that goes. Uh-huh. So I was in that position for 7 years.
Wow.
So I became youth director and then student ministries director, and
he found you and he stopped looking.
Yeah.
Which honestly I can tell why, because I've seen you talk in front of the kids, and you're great. You're super engaging. Like, I knew as soon as I saw you, I was like, this guy was meant to be doing this.
Yeah, dude. I love it. And so I spent I've been with the ministry now for 10 years and just became executive director back last October. Okay. Being in student ministries, man, I had my heart broken multiple times, because you're working with students who are just coming out of really tough situations, and they kind of get it from both sides. Like, the environment that they're in is already tough, but then they have stereotypes and other stuff that people put on them, and they're fighting between the two. And so just like my whole mission was to help them reach whatever God had called them to, whatever that looked like. And I had some students who wanted to be basketball players, and we would, push them to do that. And other students who, man, they didn't want to go to college. All they wanted to do is get a job. And so whatever God, my goal was not to tell them what they needed to do, but to help them chase after the Lord and let Him define what they needed to do with their lives.
Yeah, and that's part of y'all's mission. I know you're talking about how this goes with helping people. How you actually help them is not by I'd prefer you to say, because I'm going to botch it up, but it's like helping people do their goals. Or how do you put it?
Yeah. So we kind of say our mission is just holistic relationships to transform the community. Like, that's kind of what we're about.
Shalom.
Shalom. Yeah, and we could talk about that. And when we say community, people will think, okay, hey, you guys are talking about the hood. You're talking about people in poverty. But for us, community is threefold. It's our neighbors, so those who are living in material poverty. It's our staff, those who are coming alongside to work and do those things. And then it's also our partners, so like Sagemont and other groups who want to do poverty alleviation, but often and don't have the skills or resources to do that. And so you see churches that will have a food pantry or have, clothing store or whatever, and then they still see that they're not able to move the needle.
Same
right?
people coming back over and over
same
again.
people coming back over and over again. And so we want to help train them really well to give them those tools, because it could be frustrating. Like somebody comes up to you on the street asking you for $1 and you're like, okay, what do I do? Like, should I give it? Should I not give it? I don't know what they're going to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
Do I just keep bottles of water in my car? Whatever. And so we help train people on like, how do you be the most effective and good stewards with what you're given, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen it in practice, and it's really cool. Just like the community actually like comes in, and you get to see the kids. And I want to hear about if you have any cool stories about like individual people. Like that,
for sure.
I know that there was Louis, I think, the guy who was like a millionaire, and then just recently gave his life to the Lord over to spring break or something like that.
Yeah.
But I had a quick question before we get into that.
Sure.
What was the other job offer that you got?
So it was for a furniture company.
Oh, okay.
They were doing like international like furniture sales, and so I was going to be like working accounts for them.
Yeah, you dodged a bullet with that, man.
Well, I mean, they were successful companies. So
I guess what I mean by that is like I imagine this job is much more fulfilling, and then the way that it's panned out for you, it's just it's actually God has used it.
Yeah, and I mean, just personally, like I've always, because I mean, I've had non-ministry jobs and just always felt like God was calling me into ministry, and you know what that means. You're not going to make a lot of money and whatever, and so we're you're kind of used to like, hey, we're going to see if God will provide, and so I'm very happy with the choices that I've made in that regard. So
yeah, I bet that's great. And keep on track with my question.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. Oh, what's your personal testimony?
Yeah, man. So I grew up in California. I'm not a Texan.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if anybody can tell, but
you got the style. You got California style. Yeah,
right. So I grew up in California. So we grew up in Escondido, which is like SoCal,
Okay. Heard of it.
And so basically, kind of, my long story short, one night I was like 7 or 8, and my parents were talking, and all of a sudden my dad's calling me into the room, and my mom's laying on the floor, right, and she had always had asthma. She had asthma attack. Cut off the oxygen into her brain, put her in a coma, like big thing. And so, at 7 years old, like I'm calling 911 to get them over there, right? And so, and while my dad is like making sure, like he's doing CPR to make sure she stays alive. So they take her, she ends up coming out of coma. She has to learn how to walk all over again, talk all over again, but she ends up moving to Texas to be with my grandparents, so that way she can have more support, more help.
How long does that take for her to like recover?
So, I mean, she still has issues now, but she's a really strong woman. I don't know timeline as far as like before she could actually like. I think she was in the coma maybe a week or so. So a long time for that.
For being a coma,
yeah. And so one day, my mom had moved to Texas. I was still here. And my dad's like, hey, you're going to California. And I think I was 9 or 10. Put me on a bus, and 2 days by myself on a bus to California.
Wow.
I got here on Christmas Day, yeah. And nobody knew I was coming. so
oh, Christmas. There you go.
Yeah.
Surprise child. There you go.
Yeah, man. So came to Texas. Didn't know anything about Texas. Thought it was tumbleweeds. And I was on this little bus going through these little small towns and saw tumbleweeds, something, and that's all that is. People ride to school on their tractors or whatever. So yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah,
that's
like coming from California and not knowing what anything's like over here, because y'all don't get Texas history in California.
No. Texas is very proud of their history.
Yeah.
So I got down here. My first meal down here, first big Texas meal, was a chicken fried steak, and it was like bigger than a plate. And I'm like, this is insane.
White or brown gravy?
It was white gravy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad you remember that.
And I never had white gravy before. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Are you a fan?
Yeah. I think brown gravy is my favorite still.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like turkey. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, so you got to Texas.
Got to Texas, man. And so, when I got down, it just a lot of hurt, a lot of anger. Felt like I was abandoned. I couldn't understand why. Family separation, which is why like just good marriages and solid households are so important, right? And we'll talk about this, but one of the things that we always talk about is broken systems create broken people, which create broken systems, right? And so if you look at even the home environment, that when you have a home environment that is broken, you know, broken people that aren't able to reconcile, that don't take control of their own healing, you see that that be translated to the kids and to their kids' and so on until the cycle stops.
Right.
And so the reverse of that is healed and whole people make healed and whole systems, which create more healed people, right?
Yeah.
And so which is why it's so important for just, you know, you fight for your marriage and fight for like solid home life, because it just has ramifications all throughout. And not to say like you can come from the best family in the world and still screw up and do stupid things, right?
Yeah.
You just don't want to you don't want to start your kids off at a, you know, hard spot. So so just a lot of anger, a lot of hurt, was running away, putting holes in walls, punching walls, all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I was just mad as a kid. And for good reason, right? And so I was like, hey, we're going to church camp. And I did not want to go to church camp at all. I was like, this is stupid. But there were girls there. And so I was like, cool, let me, yeah, I'll go, you know.
And do you remember how old you were at this time?
So I was probably 8th grade, 9th grade, right around there.
Okay.
So I started going to camp to chase girls and do all that. Got into music that way. Yeah.
What do you play? Or do you sing? Or?
Yeah. So I was a worship leader for a long time. Like that was my job. Yeah. And so keyboard, keys mainly, and then sing, and then guitar, because I couldn't carry a keyboard with me everywhere, so I had to learn how to play guitar. Yeah. So I mean, anything that I don't have to like use my breath for, you know, like woodwinds and stuff like that, I can typically play. Okay.
So. Is there a specific reason why you say anything you don't have to use your breath for?
So I have like low key asthma, and so So. And I just never learned how to play like clarinet and bassoon and trumpets. I just never learned how.
We have recorders as a kid. Growing up.
That's
like,
what's up.
We each got a recorder and like learned a little bit. That was,
yeah.
To me, it was always kind of an obnoxious, not a real instrument. So I didn't keep with it.
Yeah.
But okay, so keyboard, guitar, singing. You went to camp.
Yeah. So I went to camp, chasing girls. Like, you know, had the camp girlfriend. I was that kid. You know, like you get the camp girlfriend that you only date for that week, and then y'all don't talk to each other for the rest of the year. Yeah, it was so stupid.
I remember those. I didn't have one.
Yeah.
I know those.
It was so dumb. But the Lord used that, and so I remember because we went to Lakeview. I grew up Methodist, and so a little Lakeview camp, and there's this little chapel where we would do all of our worship stuff. It's still there, and man, I remember this guy said. I don't even remember what the sermon was, but I remember the Lord hitting my heart, and we call it Cry Night. You know, it's
is this a Methodist thing?
No, it's across the board. It's the night where like, you know, it's everybody comes down and everybody's like weeping and crying.
At camp,
at camp,
it's like the last day or second the night before. Yeah, the music is harder and it goes longer and it's you know, and it can get a really poor. Like we can trivialize it to Cry Night, but like the idea is that the Lord has been doing work all of these days, and for some people it may be fabricated. Like they see other people, they get caught in emotion, but we don't take away the fact that the Lord does real work there. You know? Yeah. I think it's great whenever those things happen, because I do believe that our emotions are supposed to be invested in the Lord, and especially like crying out like that. I think it's really important. But I think what the lacking is like it's only for a week, and that it's really hard to get discipline at camp for only a week, and so that's kind of
why discipleship is so important.
Right. Yes.
You know, like people put so much emphasis on the mountain high, but when they come off the mountain and you go back to home, you go back to school, and you go back to work, like who's walking you through the valley? And we run into grown men who are 60 and 70 years old who say, I've never been discipled, and I don't know how to disciple anybody. And if the church is supposed to be disciples making disciples, there's an issue. Right. So,
and it's like, how do you go about doing that? And somebody we both know, actually, Kenneth, who's talking about. I think he might have heard it from you guys, but he was learning about it recently, about how discipleship is like inviting somebody into your life, kind of deal. I don't know. Maybe you could speak a little bit more about how you view discipleship, and like how do you think biblically, how do you think it should be done?
Yeah. So so everybody has a different opinion, right? Like, oh, it's an hour meeting, where, hey, you put all your sins down and we have accountability, or it's like, you just come over to the house, whatever. And I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's the relationship that's so important, that when you have somebody that you're deeply invested in and you're relational, then like you see all those things. Because like for my students, like I would sit them down, we would have a formal Bible study, right? We're sitting down, we're talking about stuff, we're talking about what we're struggling with, but then also like they would come over to my house and hang out, and so they got to see the way, see the way TJ and I would operate. And then when I had kids, they would see the way they operated with kids. And so for me, like that's what discipleship is.
Sure.
It's that
learning by watching how you do things.
Yeah, but it's also intentional, right? And so it's broad and then intentional. And so because I would have students that would, when I'll talk about one of them later on, but I had students I would take him home every day, and it was a 20-minute drive to go there, and with the conversations we'd have and the stuff that we'd have, like that's discipleship. And now he's being discipled by somebody else, and now he's discipling other kids, right? And so
nice.
Yeah, the intentionality is so important, man. So
yeah, absolutely. And I like to say that it's so I work with like my nephew and a few other guys that are they're a little church. My nephew doesn't really like going to church, but I still feel like this is part of my discipling the nations. Is basically like if I hear them curse like on the job or something like that, I go, hey, we don't use language like that on my crew, that kind of thing. I know that's a little thing, but I like talk to him about we'll read the Bible in the morning, and talk to him about like the way God sees things and like what pleases God, what doesn't please God. And so it's like, even though that it's we don't have the formal I'm discipling you, you're discipling me, and I crave that more and more, and I think that's better when people are like actively seeking that discipleship. But it still feels like to me it's part of discipling, discipling the nations or whatever, even just people that are unchurched or don't even realize that they may be Christians and they believe God, but they don't know how to follow God, that kind of thing.
So I do think it's super important, like the relational aspect is good, but also like the edification process of like, hey, like I need to equip you in this. Like, hey, we're going to sit down and read scripture together so that way you can bounce those questions off of me, right? Like the Ethiopian eunuch, right? He's like, hey, I don't know how to read this. I need somebody to teach me how to do this, right? So I do think both of those things are important.
Yeah,
so.
That's a good example. A very good example. And I just realized that we were talking about your testimony still. We got off track there.
Yeah. So finishing
Cry
off.
night.
Yeah,
yes.
cry night.
That's right.
So so the Lord hit me, and I went outside because I was just a mess, right? And which is really hard because like just kind of growing up with a Marine Corps father who came from the hood, black man, it's like, hey, emotions are not something that we show, right? We don't cry. Like I remember my mom going to the hospital and my dad looking at me and saying, hey, don't cry because I'll cry for the both of us, right? And even that moment when it should have been, but for him, it's like, hey, we have to be strong. We can't allow this. And so I went outside to do that. Didn't want to be around people. And this guy, I don't even remember his name, but I remember exactly what he said to me. He came out and because he knew some of my story, and he was like, hey, your earthly father might leave you, but your heavenly father never will. And for me, like that was game over. Like that was my moment when I accepted Christ. And so yeah,
that's so great. I've seen that hit really hard for a lot of different people, and then for other people, it's just like they don't get that sense at all. And I don't know what that is, but I know that God speaks to us each individually, as individuals or whatever. And I don't know. I just see that hit so much harder. Like there was this book that I was hearing about called "Faith of the Fatherless," and it's like it's a lot of people that are atheists are actually just angry at God or have rejected God, and it's just it's so interesting how like people adopt that more and more. Like for me, like in my dad, like I see God as my heavenly father, and then also with my dad as well. He's a good godly man, but now he even like calls me brother sometimes. So it's like good. So it's kind of like we're he raised me to be a child of God, but also his son. So it was really, I'm blessed to have him. But although I mean, just like we were talking about earlier, everybody's got those generational curses that you're trying to like get out of. And he had so much bad stuff from his dad, but he was able to get out and do teach me better, teach his kids better. Now, he definitely had his issues, but at the same time, now I can see those things and then disciple better for my children, and hopefully that we continue on to, and I'll pass on some generational curses to them as well that they'll see and they'll be able to work out and do better. and I believe that like things will get better over time.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why I like y'all's ministry so much is it's that it's so hopeful. And I'm gonna skip a couple of questions.
Yeah.
But what do you see the ministry's vision is? Like, what is it gonna do in Galveston? Or what do you see it do in the future?
Yeah. And so there's a couple of yeah. So and at some point we'll kind of help like define poverty, because that's really important for why we do.
Do you want to do that first?
Yeah, maybe so. Like, don't forget that question, because that's super important. Yeah. So typically, so we bring mission teams down, right? This year we'll probably see about 600 like students and youth that'll come down throughout the year.
I thought you were gonna say groups. I was like, that's crazy.
No, I know.
But students. Yeah. It's still a good number.
So So with that, like, we always do what is poverty first up, because we want to set a basis, right? Because what we've kind of grown to understand is that people have a typically the same view of what poverty is, that kind of centers around lack of. So either it's a lack of education, or it's poverty is just simply a lack of like materialistic things, right? So and even
or discipline, even
yeah. So when you look at like how the United States views poverty, right, it's the same way. So they have what they call like the supplemental poverty measure, which is like, hey, you can make this much money, and then plus these government resources, and then this is where you are poverty wise. And then there's another one where it's just straight money, right? And so just give me a guess, like how much do you think for a family of 4 that you can make and not be in poverty?
Okay, and not be in poverty.
Yeah.
And I've already heard you give this answer, but I'm probably gonna have forgot it. So a family of 4.
Yeah.
How much can you make to not be in poverty line?
How much income should they bring in a year?
I want to say $35,000 to $40,000 a year.
Yeah, so 30,000 is the cutoff.
Okay.
So and it'll range, but a family 4 is not considered in poverty if they make over 30,000 a year.
Okay.
I mean, but you think about
that's
it.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's insane, right? And that's how we.
I would think I'm in poverty if I'm 30,000 a year.
I mean, right? Yeah. And so you look at it and like, so because I was re-looking at some of these numbers, like people say, okay, hey, poverty is food. Like people who don't have food. United States throws away, so not just what they produce, but what they throw away. 91 million tons of food is what we waste in the United States alone, right? So we don't have a food issue. You think about education. The U.S. spends, I think it's $17,000 per kid, so billions and billions of dollars on education alone, right?
If that even gets to kids, but that's a whole other separate issue.
That's a whole, and which we'll talk about all of that, right? So like you look at education, you look at so like churches, right? 4,000 new churches since 2010 at least, right? There's millions of Christians all over the country. So then why isn't the gospel getting to people? Why, if there's a whole bunch of food, then why do we still have people that are hungry if we're spending all this money on education? We think like welfare. Okay, there's welfare programs, right? They're supposed to get people to the next block. We spend $1 trillion on welfare. So what's the issue then, right? And so for us, like poverty is so much deeper than just money. And this is where we see the breakdown, right? And so there's this really great book called When Helping Hurts by Brian Fickert, and there's another guy on that too. I don't even want to put disrespect on his name because I just forgot it.
Brian
Fickert. Yeah, Fikkert.
When Helping Hurts.
When Helping Hurts, man. We make all our interns read it. Like it's an amazing book, especially if you're like, man, I've been doing ministry and I don't, especially if you're doing like missions, like overseas missions and all that. Like it talks through all that.
Yeah, I just feel like that it sounds like it's a good book for anybody. It's just like there's so many different. There's somebody I'm dealing with right now who their sibling has been unchurched, but like has a really like strong heart for them and like gives them money and whatnot, and they're like struggling. They're no longer they don't know where that money is really going. You know, It's like they're struggling with a lot of stuff, and they're not doing well financially themselves, and it's like they don't really know if they're helping in that way. And so it's like, what point are you enabling this person, you know, or not even enabling? That's what my instinct is, and this is something that convicted me at while we were at spring break. There is that it might not even necessarily be that person doesn't have the discipline or the skills to do it, you know. And so continue on.
Yeah, so that's we could talk about too. That's the RRD model. Like
What is the RAD model?
Yeah, so the RD model is relief, rehabilitation, and development. So typically, when groups try to help, when you try to help people in poverty, it centers around relief, right? And so that's, hey, clothing stores, food pantries, like how I'm gonna give you money, and so relief is meant for crisis situations, but often like we mistake crisis for chronic, and so there's a hurricane in Haiti. That's a crisis situation. We don't need to make people wait, 10 days while we judge whether or not they
need the help.
They need the help, right? Yeah, like that's a crisis situation. But so often, like you have somebody who they're coming to you for the 5th time to get their light bills turned on. Like that's a chronic situation. And so we use crisis methods for chronic situations and then wonder why they don't get better. And so relief has a good and right place, but the goal is to get them to help our people get out of that space. And so that's where rehabilitation development. So rehabilitation means, hey, maybe I was making $15 an hour and I lost my job, so I'm making $0. The goal would be for me to get back to that place where I was, and then development means I'm building upon those skills to go up. And so some of the ways we do that is like, one, like asking good questions. Like people assume so much, right? You assume this person doesn't have these skills, or you even beyond that, you assume that the problem that they're coming to you with is the actual problem, right? And so a lot of times when our neighbors come to us like, hey dude, my lights are off, whatever, it's like, well, hey, tell me what's up. Why are your lights off? Well, I couldn't pay the bill. Why can't I pay the bill? Well, because I lost my job. Well, why'd you lose your job? Well, because I didn't have transportation. Why'd you have transportation? Well, because my driver's license is laxed and the place is across the island and I couldn't go over there to get it. Well, why couldn't you go over to get it? Well, because I don't have anybody to take me and I don't have XYZ. Oh, okay. So what you're really saying is,
I need a ride.
Yeah, you need a ride over here. You need somebody to help you get your driver's license to get this set up, and then you need some help like finding a job and doing that. So now the conversation has changed. Rather than I just need my lights turned on, it's actually let's come back here and figure out these things. And we've seen this time and time again, right? And I mean, even not even using it for this, like anybody who has an issue, just asking really good questions to find what the heart of the issue is, because that's the only way change creates it. And so we watch, like people who will do relief, and then they get really frustrated, and they'll blame the person when they helped set up the safety net, right? Like you helped set up this dichotomy, and now you're mad that this person is using that. And so we, even with that, like we help people, like even the ones who are serving, like help them find strategic ways to respectfully and help people move together off of that, right? Because if you create a safety net for somebody and you just pull it away, that's not loving, that's not kind, that's not gospel, right? But you watch Jesus, come up to the guy who's laying by the pool, and he's like, hey, do you want to be healed? And the guy's like, yes. He's like, okay, so get up and walk, right? Like Jesus did the healing, the man also had his part to play. Sure. Like even the Israelites were commanded, when you glean your fields, like don't pick everything up, let what's falling and leave that for the poor. And so even the poor still had to come through and do work, but the Israelites had a responsibility within that, right? And so and we're helpful. Like, dude, anybody who like needs help on that, has questions on that, like we love helping with that. There's no problem that's too small. We'll talk through anything with anybody. So
that's one of the, so you come alongside people, is one thing that y'all do. Who all does that? I know there's you, but I mean you're also doing the whole, I mean you're the director. So I mean there's boss. Boss. But who else? Sorry.
Yeah, so we have a staff of 14 is what we, and so which is not big at all. So we have about four people who are running like our program side, and so Yvette, who's our program director. So again, when we talk about discipleship and mentorship and training up, Yvette started off as an intern. And then came on staff to work with youth girls, and now she's leading programs across the board for children, youth, and adults, right? Okay, and she's 26, 27, and so and we've watched her grow. So like good soil, and so then Dylan, who is her husband, who is student ministries director, who again, like Dylan came out of the hood in Fort Worth, just like he'll tell his story is crazy, sold drugs, like ran with everything, got a hold of his heart, and came down here as an intern, was trained up and developed by Candace, who was one of our rock stars who just left, my really good friend, just one of the smartest people on poverty alleviation you'll ever meet, like just brilliant and knows how to do this work really well. But he was trained up as an intern, so he went to children's ministry. He was under me with student ministry, and now he leads student ministries, right? So again, that development, that discipleship is huge.
Yeah.
And then Anthony, who was one of my students, who again was, he discipled, came to Christ, told me I will not work in ministry. I don't want to do that. I would rather be a firefighter, or I thought he was going to go to school for, for football, and the Lord got a hold of his heart. And man, now he is leading and mentoring the same students in the same schools that he was in. And so he kind of runs the junior high program. And then you have Miss Ann, who does all of our adults, who has a really beautiful story, like came out of addiction, came out of brokenness, and now helps adults do the same thing, right?
Nice.
And so that's just our program team. And then we just hired a marketing director, Daniel Delgado, who's really amazing. I love that dude. Sarah Cantu, who runs all of our social media stuff, and she actually runs surf missions in Nicaragua, right? Because she has a big heart for.
She surfs.
Yeah, she surfs. Yeah.
Okay. I was kind of joking.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was another name for surf. She does surfing there.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, and she has like an organization that she does development in Nicaragua, and so that's part of like being good, like a good mission being good, Christian neighbors is like, oh, hey, if that's what you want to do, then how do we develop that? And so we even sat down, just talked through her business plan, which doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because it's like, I know this might take you away from GUM, and so why would I help you do something that might negatively impact us when we leave? Because that's the gospel. Like the goal is for Christ to be known wherever it is by whoever it is, and if this is how God is calling her, then we're going to pour energy into that, even as she's working here to help her develop that and do that.
That's
Does that
great.
make sense? And then so Bobby Louie, who's our CFO, came from just kind of corporate world and decided that he wanted to do ministry, and is brilliant with numbers, brilliant with all of that. And then we have Miss Linda, who runs our front desk in our office. She came from Nigeria and now is kind of doing work here, and she's just the sweetest person you ever meet. Just loves Jesus, loves the Lord. Miss Ann Attaway, who runs a lot of like our kind of back end stuff. She's a volunteer. She's like, I don't want to get paid, but she worked for either Boeing or something crazy like that, and now does a lot of those things. Clayton, who came from kind of corporate big time world, was selling like timeshares and had his own insurance company, and then he was like, hey, I want to do something that has meaning, that has
impact.
And so he came to do this. So he was the one running your mission team, right? Clayton Boyd. And so this will be his second summer coming up, and he loves Jesus, man, has a heart for evangelism. And then kind of under him, he has three guys. So Ethan, Seth Dillow, and then Boss. And Boss was another one of our students. Seth was one of our volunteers. And so you, like, the reason why I say all that is because we are really relationship based. If you watch, you have these people who are coming from vastly different places that the Lord has called here, that we get to like steward and mentor and grow. And so one of our big tenets is like we believe in leadership development, and even if that leadership development takes you out of GUM and you're, hey, go with the Lord.
Good.
Yes, absolutely. We're not going to be those people to say, hey, we're only going to train you if you promise to stay here. Like that, for us, that doesn't make sense, because the Lord has given us these people to steward for this amount of time, no matter what that time is.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and it's great. Every single one of their names went through the whole roster, which is awesome.
Oh, Miss Tina.
Oh, okay.
Who runs grants. Yeah, and that's Yvette's mom. So relationships on relationships.
Wow, yeah. I don't suppose Yvette met her husband that's working with her there through the job. Oh, okay, that's so cool.
Yeah, we say there's something in the water, because like, so Candace met her husband, right, Josh, not our founder Josh, but another Josh, at GUM. I met my wife at GUM. Dylan and Yvette met at GUM. So
wow.
Yeah. So, and we're all still married. I gotta
start working at GUM. Shoot, man.
I know we got interns coming this summer. I'm just like, oh, okay. Let's see how that goes.
Galveston, yeah, it's got to be the water.
It's got to be the water, man. I don't know what it is.
So one of the questions I had about program people is, so like, what do they do on a day to day? I know the discipleship and whatnot. Do they have like little Bible study groups, or do they like have little things that y'all have, like, or I guess programs that y'all have developed and y'all go out and do, like maybe the food pantry? Go into detail on that.
Yeah. So so we practice what's called like CCDA principles, right? And so what that means is that we don't determine for our neighbors what they need. Like we communicate with them and then work alongside them to develop stuff. And so the reason why we have a children's program, youth program, adult program is because that's what our community said that they needed, right? And the reason why we're looking at planning a church in the community within the next 5 years is because that's what community asked us for. Nice. Not because you poor people, you need Jesus. Like all of us need Jesus, but we are seeing that pool. So what it looks like, so our student team, again, three people on this student team. They are currently in every single GISD school that's not elementary, and they're on every single campus. So they're doing next step classes for high school seniors to help get them to the next step. They're doing mentorship with junior high. They're going to basketball games and soccer games. This weekend we have. Or in the next couple of weeks, we have multiple graduations because they have students everywhere. So we're going to Mark, Dickinson, Texas City, and Galveston graduations because that's where all the students everywhere.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's where they're going.
And so
they're doing life with them, like
exactly.
week by week. Or day by day even. Sorry.
Yeah. So they're working with parole officers, right? So parole officers will call them to make sure students are doing what they need to do. And so they're working with school systems. So a lot of times parents will have trouble advocating to schools because they don't know there's a power disconnect, right? Schools don't know how to communicate well to parents, and parents don't know how to communicate well to schools. And so there can be a lot of it's hard to get to the matter, right? Because you want to defend your kids so much, and the school is trying to communicate, and sometimes they don't do that very well.
And there's the miscommunication.
100%.
Even in the family, probably not asking the questions of what does the kid need.
Yeah. And so our team will advocate and help communicate, help bridge those lines. And so sometimes schools will call our team if they're seeing an issue, and sometimes parents will call our team members because they don't know what to do with the situation. And then we're running programs after school, and so we're doing Bible studies, youth development. This summer they're giving the students a list of they're doing media classes, writing classes, like all kinds of stuff over the summer.
Nice.
And then also giving back is a big deal for us because so often people in our neighborhood are treated like they have nothing to give. And so when I started as youth director, the service aspect was so big. So the only way that students were able to go to camp, they didn't have to pay for it, but they had to put in service hours. That was a non-negotiable for me. And so this summer they'll do all that. They do field trips all over the place to museums, things of that nature. There's an after-school program that they run all during the week. They just started jiu-jitsu classes to help teach emotional regulation.
Yeah.
They partner with UTMB to bring in UTMB actually has us as a site for their OTs who are doing their kind of graduate work, so where they can come to us and do a program there. And so
what does UTMB usually do?
So it just depends. So the OTs will, and it's not just the OTs, but students will develop like one group did they were called Food for Thought. And so what they wanted to do is teach our students how to do healthy food. And then students would make these healthy meals, and then they would deliver them out to the community. And so last year students made, I think, 500 meals that got supported and delivered out.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, dude, it's super cool.
And I think that's great for the kids as well. It's that better to give than to receive principle from Jesus. And it's to allow them to feel like they're contributing, that they're able to do something as well. And give back, and then be encouraged to join in on the enterprise and the fellowship,
Well, and the problem with the relief-based model of poverty alleviation is you take away all of the dignity from a person, because you're telling them to their face that you have nothing to offer for the situation, you have nothing to give, you only have needs, and that's not true. If you have breath, even the 80-year-old woman still has something to provide and give, and she still has worth in the kingdom.
Absolutely.
And so that's our issue with even with our school supply store and our Christmas toy store. We don't give anything for free. It's 20% of the cost is kind of what it equals out to. But we've watched, because we've seen where people will go deliver gifts and dads won't be there. Dads will go out the back door or do something else because there's so much shame there of not being able to provide. But we have dads in our store because dads get to bring their own money and they pay for it. Yeah, 100%.
I'm gonna put this on silent.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we do adult programs too, and so adult programs like faith and finance. So how do you like I don't know if you've heard like Dave Ramsey's.
No,
Dave Ramsey's super great. It's not meant for people below middle class. It doesn't make sense. None of our people are
They're
carrying.
not saving money.
Well, I mean, even beyond that, but like nobody's carrying $200, $300 in envelopes like that.
Sure. Yeah,
that's not true.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, 100%. Right.
It's crime. I'm guessing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's just so like, and plus, like, Dave Ramsey's not talking about how to use food stamps and welfare and still use that within a godly economy, right? And so stuff like that. I think
Dave Ramsey's really great for people that have credit cards and need to stop using them.
Yeah. I mean, Dave Ramsey, like, we followed that, we got out of debt, and that was helpful for us. So. And so things like that, like we help people get their driver's license and their IDs and help them make that next step to graduate, all of those things. And then on top of all of that, like we're sharing the gospel, we're living the gospel. And so sometimes it looks like just sitting with somebody who needs some counseling and needs some help. And we're not counselors, we're not mental health, but we also
financial experts. But it's like we can tell you how to discipline yourself.
Exactly.
And help like save some money to whatever. So how do you go about doing that? If people are like don't have that much, like how do you financially advise, not financially advise them, but how do you counsel them onto like sort of getting out of that financial
hole? So whenever you think about like what makes us rich, it's not just the money, right? It's also what we call, I don't know if you've ever heard the term social capital.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's one of those terms that seems kind of like amalgamous, like it could be more than what I just think it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, social capital sounds like, the time and investment that somebody puts into somebody else,
Well, so what social capital is, so like, let's say that's your truck outside, right?
Yeah.
Is that your main car that you use?
Well, it's a total loss right now. So.
Okay.
The other car is a rental.
The other car is. Okay, the other car is a rental.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So let's say before that, say the truck was still up and running, right? Uh-huh. You go out there, you turn it on, it doesn't work. Like, do you have anybody you can call for that?
Yeah.
Who would you call?
I call my boss, or I call my parents, my dad.
What would your dad be able to do?
He has a spare car. They have cars over the years that they've just accumulated. Like, all right, we need another car. This one for like gas or whatever. They have spare vehicles for me to use.
How many people do you think you could call, like, in order to like either get a ride or
Well, I'm the youngest of 8, so I have a big family. So I could call any of my family members and really rely on them if I needed to. But it doesn't even really get that far. I have friends at church and whatnot that I could help, and maybe like 1 out of 8 of them could actually show up and help me. But
let's say you had a question on your finances, like you wanted to like invest some money or do something. Like, do you have people that you could call for that?
Yeah, and people that I know from church, and I'm just a social person, so like I'm always asking what people do, it's just, and I know that's not everybody though, so I might not be a good example for this.
Well, I mean, no, you're a great example because like all of us typically like that social capital is so huge, like being able to call somebody. So like you think if you're running late for work, right? I know I can call my father-in-law because he lives down the street. We have some friends that are in the area that can help us out. Like my pipe was busted and my buddy is a plumber. And so he came over and helped me fix it, right? Which saved me a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Social capital, it costs a lot of money to be poor. So think that if you wake up and you go outside, your car doesn't work and you don't have anybody else that can take you. And so you're having to figure out how to get on the bus while you're also trying to drop your kids off for daycare. And so now what's most important? Your kids getting to daycare or school, or you getting to the job? Now you have to figure out. But if you don't get your kids to daycare, then where are they going to go while you're working, right? Sure. And so you take them over there, then you're late to work, then you get fired, like and there's nobody to speak to you on behalf. You don't have anybody to call to say, hey, can you talk to my boss about this or whatever. Like social capital is huge. Like that is one of the reasons why like a lot of our friends like can stay poor is because we like the amount of money that my father-in-law like works for a church and they fixed a bunch of stuff in our house that would cost us $1,000 to do and we didn't have to pay for that, right?
Sure.
And so that social capital is huge and cannot be underrated. So
I think that's why community is so important.
Yes.
Church is so important, and also people staying with their families. One of the things I think people really shouldn't do as much, and I think girls actually do this a lot more, is that they just stay with their parents until they get married.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people, get, all right, you're 18, time to move out. And for me, that was kind of what happened with me. But I was super rebellious, and I was like not living under my dad's rules. So he was like, all right, time for you to go.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I wasn't doing that, I would say I'd just stay with your parents for as long as you can. And then you're not paying for all these like $800 for rent. Of like would be a good deal, you know. Like, a lot of people pay twice that for.
Oh, dude, Galveston is wild.
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sure
it's
right,
hard
like
to find.
$1,600 for maybe a single bedroom apartment or something. Or do you know?
So we again, social capital. So we were super blessed to have people that loved us that we were renting from, and so we never paid more than like $1,000 for the places that we rented.
Yeah.
And man, like that was unheard of, right?
Wow.
And so again, social capital, right?
Yeah, right.
Like it's and we also talked through like, the man when our neighbors go to get a car, right? Like typically they, people will charge them insane interest rates on stuff like that, because of their credit history or because they don't have anybody to co-sign that has good credit. And so even then they're having to pay more than if I went there, right? So like when we bought our house, my father-in-law like helped co-sign on that, right? And so and he had a Chase account, and we were able to use that and get better rates and everything else. Like when we talk, like it's so expensive for the poor to be poor, right?
Yeah.
Even you think about like the grocery stores around us, right? Living in Friendswood, I have an H-E-B down the street. I have a Kroger's down right across the street, right next to my house. I have another Kroger's that's about 15 minutes away. And then if I'm really feeling fancy, there's a huge Kroger's right on 45, right? 45, League City, El Dorado, all that. In our neighborhood, there's a corner store where everything is jacked up more. It's way more expensive. There's another store down the street, which is about the same. And so the only grocery stores they can get to they would have to either take a really expensive cab ride or they have to take about 2 hours on a bus to get there.
Yeah.
So, and what happens when you eat food that's not good for you, right?
Yeah, you get slow, you get foggy, you're not working as well, you're tired, depressed.
I mean, even beyond that, diabetes,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
Like all these health issues that come up. And so now if you're having health
cost.
issues on top of the high price that you're paying for this food, because you either have to pay for food or transportation to get where you need to go, now you're having to go to the hospital to take care of these things. And if you don't have insurance or don't have this stuff, like maybe you don't go, so now this stuff gets compounded. So when we say it's expensive to be poor, it's really expensive to be poor, and I don't think people realize that. Like sometimes you can be in a hole that's so bad that you can't get out, and just because of like and we kind of err on the side of so is it personal accountability or is it bad systems, right? Like which one is it? Is it just that people make really bad choices, or is it that systems are broken, right? And for us, it's both of these things, that we have people who make stupid decisions, absolutely, but we believe they shouldn't be judged by that. They should still be given an opportunity to move forward. But then we also see really broken systems. I had one of my students who was sick all the time. When it rained inside of her apartment. Like she was living in subsidized housing that was supposed to be taken care of and monitored, and man, it would there was mold all through her apartment. Like sewage would back up. They lost power for like 2 weeks. If I lose power in my house for like 10 minutes, like I'm calling somebody and trying to get somebody out there. But it's expensive to be poor. Like we cannot stress that enough. So,
wow. Okay. I just made me think about how my AC has gone out like 3 times this week. This one works, and that's why I keep it on. But and my brother does HVAC, and so the other guy wanted to charge me $120 just to come out and have a look at it if it was my fault. But my brother-in-law came, take a look, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's just a fuse. Replace that." And then he was even able to tell me that the AC guy repaired it wrong. And so what happened after that was the AC went out again, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I don't know." I called up the guy and I said, "Hey, you did this wrong, so you can come out and fix it."
Yeah.
He came out, fixed it, got the AC working again. It was another blown fuse, and then he told me basically the dust had gotten caught up in there because of all the construction. So now I know what the problem is, and I know it's just a fuse. But I wouldn't have been able to, there's so many costs involved with like setting up a house, like it just would have been burden after burden after burden. But I mean, having my brother-in-law to help me out, and a lot of people, don't have that, especially down there. And I've heard some stories from the street camps that we were doing. There's one girl, like, she didn't have any family around there. Her mom lived in like Houston or something like that, and then she's just out here by herself. And I mean, those were kind of nice townhomes that were over there, like brand new, And so I wonder just like how some people are able to not just fall into the trap of paying for apartments and then not being able to save or do anything.
Yeah.
And they have their kids, and it's like living day to day. And I can see how it gets really hard.
Yeah, and it's hard to have vision for a future when your head's underwater.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, and
so sure.
I mean, we can like, people will judge our neighbors all the time, but like, man, like we always, so we do like the privilege talk, man, which some people like hate it, other people like it. It makes a lot of sense, right? But what we talk about is like, if you grew up in a household where you didn't have to worry about where your next meal was coming from, like, that's a privilege, that's a blessing, and it's not a bad thing. But the Lord requires us to use our privilege in a way that's good and helpful for the kingdom, right? It's not to distinguish that we have it, or not to say that we don't have it. It's to use it. And so to Candace, who I told you about, and I tell the story all the time, brilliant. She's swam with sharks. She has a whole bachelor's degree.
Literal sharks, or
literal sharks. Okay. Yes, like worked on oil rigs with like burly men, and like was telling them what to do. Like, she is a no holds bar. Like, was working in South Africa doing ministry, like all kinds of stuff, like crazy.
I'm sorry. Are we talking about actual sharks or people that are just
like real sharks?
All right.
Yeah, like real sharks, like cage kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay, that's
brilliant.
Crazy cool.
Yeah, has done mission work all over the world. Like, she's been in the hospital room with moms who didn't have anybody else, and was the first person to hold babies. Like, that kind of level of relationship.
Yeah.
And yet, when we would sit in meetings and men would not talk to her, even though she was the smartest person in the room, straight up. Like, we would have to she would have us make phone calls, because if she made the phone call, they wouldn't respond to her, or if she sent emails, they wouldn't respond to her. And so for us, like, part of this privilege is, as a man, is knowing like, hey, I can help boost her up and build her up. And so we didn't play that. We had this dude who was tried to did intern with us, who was just mad disrespectful to all the women on staff, like, didn't believe in female leadership, and he did not. We sent him home, because that does not fly. And so that is one of those ways that God has required us to use our privilege as men to help make sure that that nobody is disrespected in the kingdom of God, right?
And I don't want to get off on a side tangent here.
Yeah.
I believe that women can lead. I just think it talks about in Titus that women are supposed to, lead the other women, and usually these things are in specific stuff and side things. But me personally, and just as a personal statement, I believe that women aren't supposed to teach corporately, in a biblical setting and whatnot. But I mean, obviously, they're still the same in value, same in worth, and are able to contribute in counsel. You have like Priscilla and Aquila, where he was husband and wife, and she was the smartest person there, and she was instructing, I believe it was Timothy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like my wife is one of the strongest women I know. Like, we have a staff of strong women that. Man, like Yvette.
And more educated than men nowadays. And the problem with men is that they're not allowed to take the responsibility as their God-given right. And so part of the problem that I see with women, at least teaching and preaching in the church setting, is that it's not actually that they can't teach. It's that it's a supplement of their birthright, men's birthright. It's saying, okay, because Adam was born first, and Eve was deceived. I think that's not saying that women are more easily deceived. I think that's just because she was deceived, and Adam was born first. And so it's a birthright thing that they're supposed to be taking headship in this way and leading. And so that's just kind of that's my 2 cents, my piece. Podcast. I just want to speak my mind.
Yeah, for sure.
But not to get off topic.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, that's it's because I got 2 daughters, man, and like my goal for my daughters is I want to raise up little warriors, right? I want them to be able to, like, if they, like, absolutely.
But what about mothers? What about as mothers instead? I mean, fighters. Yeah, I
get
what you're saying.
So my goal for my daughters is whatever the Lord has called them to, that they're able to do that with. And it's like, motherhood is a beautiful and strong thing. Like, I'm a product of a strong
women
mother.
do it best.
Yeah, 100%. But like, whatever God has called them to, like, that's what I want them to do and do well. And so, yeah. So I don't know. I just, that's an important thing for me, because like, I even see Yvette and how strong she is and how smart she is, and like there's times where she's had to call me out on some things, and if I was in my pride and in my feelings, I could not accept that, and I would have missed out.
And to me, that's like she's prophesying to you, like she's speaking truth to you.
100% she is. Yeah. And so yeah, and it takes all of those to do what we do.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Well,
very good. So moving on to the future of G.U.M, where do y'all see it going?
Yeah, man. So there's a few things, right? So like our Galveston has been pushed to be like they've been trying to make it like a like straight kind of vacation area, which we understand.
Tourists. Sure.
Yeah, and so there's some challenges with that, right? So like you have a police force that's meant for 60,000, but then you have a population that doubles or triples by that on weekends and big events, right?
Sure.
And so they're trying to move in Margaritaville and all these things, and so one of the things that we're looking at is what does that mean for our community? That we've even seen gentrification start to move over, like new development and stuff like that. And so what happens to people in poorer communities is they get pushed out because they can't afford to live in those communities anymore. They lose their houses because the property tax goes up and they can't pay it, and the expenses are too much, right? And so that means they move off the island, they move everywhere. And so a big thing we're looking at is like, how do we get our people to be able to survive this process of gentrification? And so like your earning potential, like every person on the planet has an earning potential, whatever that is. And so how do we get that to go up? Is it education degrees? Is it job placement, whatever? It's hard because Galveston does not have a lot of job opportunity. Like it's
police force is what it sounds like.
Well, I mean,
but other than that,
I know. I mean, so you have UTB, which is probably the largest employer on the island. You have like sometimes niche jobs with the schools, but you need like bachelor degrees and stuff like that because we have a couple colleges on the island. Aside from that, it's you might be able to find a job with like G.U.M or a nonprofit, maybe, but those are not widely,
Sure.
So you either work for the city, or you can work doing the hospitality.
Sure.
And so and that's not a lot of options, and so that's what makes it hard.
Yeah, that's tough. I wonder what's going to look like for that, because I'm not totally opposed to gentrification. I like things getting nicer, and like security going up and all that sort of thing. But for people that are there that don't really have another place to go, like if everywhere starts getting really nice and really, it doesn't. Why can't it be nice and still affordable? At the same time, and I think that has to do a lot with the idea of shalom. So maybe we should backtrack a little bit and talk about what shalom is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and let me finish vision wise, and then we'll. And so the other thing we see is like our Hispanic community is growing like wildfire in our community, and so how do we love them well and take care of them well, because that's people that God has called us to steward. They're in our community, they're in our neighborhood. And so what we've done for that is we actually started a Spanish class. Zuri, who is another just brilliant woman that advocates for Hispanics and immigrants and like does an amazing job of that. She's teaching conversational Spanish to our staff so that way we can communicate. And so we just did a Cinco de Mayo party, right? Because we heard from the community that this is an area in our city that doesn't get a lot of people coming out. Nobody does any services for them. So that was what we heard from the community. So we said, okay, cool. What are some of the things you guys used to do here? Well, we used to have a Cinco de Mayo party. Okay, cool. We'll throw one for you. And so we did that, and it rained. The weather was terrible, and we still showed up, right? And we were there, and it was beautiful, and it was good. And so now over the summer, one of our kids campsites will be that neighborhood. And so we'll teach our work groups going in, like just very simple Spanish phrases so they can connect and do those things. And we will send them there to make sure that we are loving on them throughout the summer, So, yeah. And then, so lastly for us, like we're also kind of redefining what success means, because we have kind of what we call vanity metrics, where like people will say, "Hey, we served 3,000 people," and what they really mean is that they served 100 people 30 times. Right.
Sure.
That's vanity metrics for us. Okay. And so kind of the way we used to define success was, hey, this is how many hours we've put into this person. We put 50 hours into this through mentorship, through all this, and we've done XYZ for this person. And what we realized is, how do we know that actually translates to success, right?
Sure.
So if somebody puts 20 hours worth of discipleship in you, like how do we know that actually makes a difference?
Was it quality discipleship? You don't know what that person was getting out of it.
Yeah. Like how do you know if your programs are actually working? And so Candace and I actually years ago we started bouncing around this idea of like what does it mean for our communities to thrive? And so we're working on a tool to help basically help show where people are. We call them SEMPs, and it's something that Josh developed. So spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, and social. And so for when Christ says, I came to reconcile all things, for us, these are the all things that Christ meant to reconcile your relationship with God, right? We are broken people in need of a Savior. He came to change like us emotionally, right? To where like we are not stoic people, but we are also not ran
giving
by
us a heart of flesh.
Yeah, 100%. He came for like mental aptitude, like don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed in your mind, right? Like like physical, not just our bodies, but also like the stewardship of what we have. Like we were made to be stewards of the earth, right? And then last, social. We're not made to live by ourselves. We're made to live in the community. And so for us, when we think about thriving, we were saying all 5 of these things have to be present. And so any programs that we do should help people move up in all of these areas. And so what the tool will help determine is, hey, this is where you are. And so now we can see how to get you there. And so if we're doing our job, then people should be there. They should be moving up that scale, not down it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm curious about how it works, just because, see, like, maybe there's an income in there, and then it's also like personal, like happiness or something like that. Like, how do you tell how somebody's emotional state has improved to a point of stability, not just like for the moment,
I mean, and we have like there's a set of like 20 questions that we've kind of that Candace actually kind of developed and put together, and that we're kind of going through the final phases of looking at now.
Cool.
And ask everything from like, hey, the people that are surrounding you, like how affected are you by other people's decisions, right? How well are you able to control your emotions, like conflict resolution, like finances, like do you have a degree, or are you not even a degree, high school education, like have you done that, like what's stopping you, goal setting, like are you a person that, do you feel like you're driven, do you have goals, are you able to set, are you able to save, like all that kind of stuff it asks. So
okay, cool. And I guess like telling if they're doing better is like if they've achieved one of those goals or something like that. Like I guess maybe the same questions 5 years later or something like that. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm always wondering about those kind of things because you hear about like, oh, the happiness scale says that people are doing really great that don't own any vehicles.
Yeah.
So there is something to that. It's like people that have less choices is like a t-shirt study or whatever. It's like people that had to choose which t-shirt they wanted out of getting a free t-shirt were less happy than the people that just got a free t-shirt. And so it's kind of hard to tell even if what makes people happy is a good thing, because like happiness can't be the measure, right? Because then serial killers are really not getting their just dues, right?
Yeah, and we're not so much worried about like people's happiness. Like we're worried about like, are they able to thrive and like self-determine, right? Like people who have options and they're able to shalom, that peace that comes from everything that God has created working in harmony together. Like that's what we want for people.
Cool. Very cool. All right, let's see. Oh yeah. So do you have like any personal stories of like a really cool transformative story?
Yeah, we have a few. So I think my favorite, and I use this every time, and he's probably tired of me talking about him, but so Anthony is one of our students who he came out of a really tough situation, lost his dad when he was young. He walked through a lot of brokenness and a lot of heartache, right? And when he came to our program when I think he was just finishing junior high when he came in, but he came because of Boss. Him and Boss were friends, and he saw Boss go into program every day. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And so he came with him, and from there, like I just watched like we would just have all these conversations, and he would come to Bible study, do all this. We would go to camp, and he really felt the Lord was calling him to go to football. Like that's what he wanted to do, or not that he felt the Lord, like that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to play football and do all this. But once he accepted Christ, he felt disconnect, that football wasn't doing it for him anymore. He was Mr. Popular. You go to parties, like people loved him. Everybody loved Anthony, and it didn't have the same weight, the same pull, and it was weird. And he was still trying to hold on to football. I was like, maybe the Lord's calling you something else. His senior year, he like breaks his foot. Senior year, terrible, right?
Yeah.
And he had to sit out, and so he's watching like all these years and all this work that he put in, but he's also realizing that the Lord is doing something else in him. And I would ask him like, hey, what do you think about going to ministry? And he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And finally, the Lord just got him, and he's like, yeah, I think I want to do that. And his senior year, he actually said, hey, I want to bring my friends to camp. It's our last year. We want to do something together. I want to bring them. And so he brought probably 10 of his friends to camp, and he would help lead Bible studies. He was having conversations with them. And at the end of that, I think 7 or 8 of them gave their lives to Christ. And we got
wow, that's crazy.
Because and then on top of that, like he starts his own Bible study. Like he called me up. He's like, hey, I need your help with this Bible study I started. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, he started a Bible study with his friends that ballooned to like 20 people that he was leading. And from that, another one of his friends who was atheist started coming to that and ended up giving his life to Christ. And so now, and his friend had a girlfriend, and they're trying to get married now because like the game changes, right? And now that friend sends his brothers to the G.U.M program because he sees the value in it, right? Sure. Like that's gospel multiplication, you know. And now Anthony has a girlfriend, and he's trying to figure out like what does it look like for a healthy marriage, because he's seen so much brokenness relationship wise, and he doesn't want that. And so he's being really intentional and trying to lead her well, and he's going to church regularly, doing all those things. And so so we love that, because that's at the heart of what we do. Even if he didn't work for G.U.M, like I have other students who don't work for G.U.M, but that are doing really well. I think about like Mariah, you know, who her brothers have gone through hell, you know, like she's watched a lot of messed up and brokenness, and that girl works 3 or 4 jobs every time she comes down for the summer.
Oh, wow.
She got her teaching degree at Lamarck. Is it Lamarck or Lamar? Is it Lamar that's in Beaumont?
In Beaumont. I think I don't know.
Yeah.
Both of those sound
whatever
right.
University is in Beaumont. Okay. Yeah. She got her teacher degree from there. And now she's working in this school system with the same students that she was, you know.
Well, there's Texas City. There's Lamar.
No, it's in Beaumont, Texas. This is a university in Beaumont, Texas. I think it's
Lamar. There's Lamar
University
in Beaumont. University. Yeah, Lamar University is a nationally ranked college in Texas.
Lamar. There we go.
It's one of the fastest growing universities. Lamar. There we go. Beaumont, Texas. That's right. Lamar.
That's it. Yeah.
Nice.
So she graduated from there, got her teacher's degree, and then she still works 2 jobs in the summer.
Wow.
She already has a teacher's degree, but she still does it, and so she's able to, you know, like she's working with the same students that came out of neighborhoods just like hers, you know, and she's pouring into them and loving them. And
is one of those jobs with G.U.M, or is it that she's doing like...
She works at Denny's.
Wow.
Yeah, she works at... Crazy. Yeah, dude, on top of everything else she does. Like, she's the hardest working person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. Honestly, that makes me feel tired.
Yeah.
That's like... It's really cool that it seems like there's a lot of people that are actually really talented that you've gotten to work with in this, and that they like really just needed somebody to like be there for them and talk to them and kind of like help guide them in the direction that they should go. So yeah, I just think it's cool.
I mean, it changes your view on the poor. Like, do you see the poor as in materially poor? Because we still didn't talk about poverty but like, do you see the material poor as just a drain, or like as a imago Dei, as the image of God, right. with skill sets and things that God has placed in them that just needs to be developed, you know? Right.
So you said we missed something about poverty.
Yeah, we passed all around, which is my fault. So from that book, When Helping Hurts by Brian Fikkert.
Right.
So what they say is like poverty is not just a lack of stuff, but it's actually broken relationships. And so they hearkened back to Adam and Eve. And so you watch that Adam in the garden had full access to God. He didn't need any intermediary. He didn't need a priest. There was no divide. He walked with God, talked with God face to face, right? Adam had purpose, right? His job was to steward the garden and steward it well. And we call that joyful work. Like, it's still work, but it's something that fills our soul, and that's good. It says that he was naked and unashamed. So he knew exactly who he was. He knew exactly who he belonged to. There was no shame in that. And then he had this relationship with Eve, right? And then they had community. Like, he sees her for the first time, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, right? And then they had work together. They were supposed to procreate, right? Make babies, right? Fun work, right?
It's fun work,
joyful
right?
work,
yeah,
joyful
nice.
work. Yeah. And so
people saw having children more as a good work to do.
Yeah, it is, dude. It's joyful work. It can be tough, but but yeah. Amen. And so within all that, we always ask the students, what did Adam lack? And there was nothing that he lacked. But then you get Satan that comes in, and Satan will promise abundance and delivers only death, right? And he said, hey, within this context, that's just something that you're missing. And yes, like Eve was the one to take the fruit, but Adam also had a responsibility not to. Like, he didn't have to, and he forsook his responsibility as head of the household, because he could have easily said, "Hey, baby, no, we're not doing that. That's not on us."
He was right there with her. Right.
Yeah.
No, she handed him the apple or whatever. The
fruit. Yeah. So, So with that, so what you see is you see the brokenness of the relationships, right? They realize that they're naked. Shame comes in, and so you have a broken relationship with self. They hear God walking through the garden, and they hide. And so where you had intimacy with God, now there's fear of God, right? And God's like, "What's up? What happened?" And Adam immediately says, "This woman you gave me." He doesn't call her by her name. He goes from flesh of my flesh, bone and bone, to this woman you gave me. He blames her. He dehumanizes her just like that, right? And so now where you had community, now you have conflict, a broken relationship, right? Mm-hmm. And so now there's a curse that's placed on him that what was joyful work now becomes toilsome labor. So instead of Adam being able to work the ground and the ground giving what it's supposed to, now it's hard, and it we work so much. They talk about that America is the most inefficient when you look at all the countries, because we put in the most hours for the least amount of compensation coming back.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's wild. Like, the amount of hours we put back for what we get back, like in terms of healthcare and everything else, is
this
insane.
like a study I could look at? What is it? Do you know name?
It was on a podcast, man. I need to. Yeah. Look that up. Study that up.
I bet you ChatGPT knows.
Yeah,
it'll find it.
Yeah. They were just because it blew my mind, but they were talking about like Americans put in so much hours in work, and we look at other countries as being lazy, but we put in so much, and then the fact, the way that we're compensated and the way that with healthcare and everything else, we don't actually get the ROI that other places get.
Do you think that this has something to do with the bad focus on not on things that matter, maybe family or relationships, and not taking naps during
well, I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, the way that even from a staffing perspective, so for Christmas, we give, and this is something that Josh started, we give all of our staff the week off where they don't have to use PTO. So that means even if you're working part-time, you still get all the hours that you would have had part-time.
Yeah.
And we pay that outright.
Nice.
And so that way people don't have to worry about. We push really hard to have a really healthy staff culture. Yeah. We know we're going to have hard weeks, but we'll send people home and say, hey, you need a rest, buddy. We'll give them flex days, because we don't play that game. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, because I mean, people. It's so easy for people to just not get into a bad cycle of not sleeping, and it's a lot of times it's not even always their fault. I mean, people can just stay up late watching YouTube and be on their phones and whatnot, but then sometimes it's maybe a friend calls you that really needs help. There's been so many times where I'm laying in bed, I'm about to go to sleep, and somebody calls me up, and I get into an hour-long conversation with somebody that just really needed it, and then after that, before that, Now I'm tired and I'm getting a little moody or whatever. I start coping in bad ways. I watch YouTube a little later than I should because I'm tired, and then it just becomes a negative cycle you get into because you're tired. And I mean, it's part of the reason we need to seek rest in God. But
I mean, but even we work working 70, 80-hour weeks, and then what do you have to show for it? 3 divorces and in a nice house, right? So all of those
if
things.
That, she didn't take it or something.
Yeah. So broken relationship with God, broken relationship with others, broken relationship with self, broken relationship with creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then we turn to question of like, hey, like if this is what poverty is, so if shalom is all of these things working together, then poverty alleviation is restoring shalom, is healing those broken relationships. And so the question comes that if this is what poverty is, right? Then who is actually in poverty? Is it just the people like who are living in the hood, or is it? And we ask this question, and they're like, well, we all are. Okay, well, cool. Let's see. Have you ever felt shame in your life? Have you ever doubted the person that God has called you to be, or wrestled with depression or anxiety? And everybody says, yeah, absolutely. Have you ever had toilsome labor, like feeling like the work you didn't matter? Are you in a job that you hate, or just? We also talk about like this brokenness of we understand what it means, or we have a collective, like if a person is lazy, like that's not okay, right? Like procrastinators, whatever.
Right. I was thinking earlier about such a conservative viewpoint, especially in Texas, like pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
Like, get it done, do it.
Yeah, but what about the other person who their whole basis is on what they can produce?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm only good enough if I can. My worth is based on the level that I'm able to produce. Right. Like that is a broken relationship with creation, just the same. Right. We think about like how we steward our environment, like like God gave us the earth to steward, and we don't steward it well, right? Mm-hmm. And so cool. And then you go to like relationship with God. How many people have felt far from God? How many times have you ran from God? Like you let sin fall into your life, right? Mm-hmm. All of us have. And you look at conflict with other people. Like how many of you have had conflict with other people, or maybe you're a kid of divorce or child of divorce, or there's relationships that you still haven't reconciled, right? Like all of us are in poverty, and that goes back to why we talk about the 91 million tons of food. Like we don't have a food problem. There's plenty of food,
right?
But why doesn't it get to the people that it needs to? Why do we pour so much into education and yet teachers are still underpaid, right? Why do we have all these churches on all of these corners and yet we still have people who haven't heard the gospel, we still have people who are getting hurt from church and walking away from the faith, right? Like why do we have all that? And it shows you all of these broken relationships, because when you have broken people who create broken systems, they in turn create more broken people. When you have government that's full of broken people that are creating broken systems on both sides, you create more broken people, right? Like the welfare system was supposed to mean a good thing, but you look at the welfare system, and we have like part of the welfare system is there's a price limit or a wage limit, right? If you earn 10 cents over that limit, you can lose all your benefits. So say you're getting $400 worth of benefits, right? And you get a job that gives you a raise to where you're making another $100 a month. You just lost $300 because of the fact that you can't make enough. Right.
You literally went one step forward, two steps back.
Exactly. Why would I push in my job? Why would I try to earn any more if my job, right? And we know
that incentive, yeah.
Dude, and employers are terrible. And I want to make that broad generalization, but we've seen like how much employers will take advantage of the people they like, and understand like that business is hard, but we've seen. I'm not talking about all employers are bad, but we've seen a lot of people that will take advantage of their workers, right? Like how can I get the most?
And they have this poverty mindset as well. It might not be because that they are malicious and hate people, but it's because like they're scared or worried about the next paycheck that they're gonna get, you know. And I mean, it's a poverty mindset, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. And so we see it across the board, man. Like in that poverty mindset of even like, hey, I'm gonna keep all that I can because I need this. Like, how much is enough, right? Like, dude, I know this is, you know, they did the there's the spaceship launch that just happened, the Blue Origin, and there's one of the ladies who's I think it was Jeff Bezos' girlfriend was like, she's up there in this 11-minute plane ride that I don't know how much it costs, millions and millions of dollars for them to do this, and she's looking down at the earth and she's like, man, I just feel like we're all so connected right now.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's like you got people who are struggling to pay their rent, and y'all just took $1 million spaceship ride for 11 minutes, man. Don't tell me that we feel connected.
New heights of delusion.
Yeah. But that shows you the brokenness. Like Kobe Bryant is my absolute favorite basketball player of all time. Like I grew up as a Laker fan, and you would.
I don't care for basketball.
Yeah.
But Lakers I hear are really good. Actually, never mind. It was the Golden State Warriors.
Get your story. or where is their killer?
I drove them once when I was a chauffeur.
Oh, let's go.
They're coaches, not their whole
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
but
Steve Kerr and all those guys.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. So, but you look at Kobe Bryant, right? Like, from a poverty standpoint, you would say that he's good, man. Like, he had everything.
Yeah.
And yet he still cheated on his wife. Right.
Oh, okay.
He still wrestled with pride and all of those things. Like Tiger Woods was another one of my favorites. You know, he crashes his car, found out he has 24 mistresses or something crazy like that.
Right.
He was at the pinnacle of success, right? And so,
and these things don't happen in a vacuum. They're missing something.
Yeah, exactly. And as Christians, we know like the only way to restore shalom is first that relationship with God.
Right.
Like once that relationship with God is restored, then the
you
rest
have
of
peace
those
and poverty.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you have people who live in absolute deject poverty and they're content, right? Like it's not just a material thing, right?
Yeah, and not even that. I just think it was blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So like, blessed are those who realize who don't like the things that they have in this world don't really matter because they have eternity with God.
Yeah, and so part of that mission for us is to help restore shalom in all places. That's why we love on our staff so well. That's why we try to love on our partners so well. That's why we love on our neighbors so well, because we know that it's people typically look at ministry as a siphon. Like you have partners who would donate time and energy, and that goes to the staff, and then the staff helps disseminate that through the community. The issue with that is neighbors are always on the bottom of that, and they seem as they only have needs, and partners they don't have any needs, right? For us, and our CFO is the one who actually said this, we see it as a wheel that you have partners, you have staff, and you have our neighbors, and all of those have needs, all of those have something to give to the situation, but together as they move, this is what propels the needle forward, working together in tandem.
Right. If one of them is not getting their needs met also, then there's going to be some sort of like failure of the system again.
100%.
So that's pretty great. I really wish, and I love actually that your program is like that you get so many churches involved, because I feel like this is what the church is supposed to be doing. What is that discipleship? And one of the things that Sagemont has done so well in the past, and this is something that recently changed, there was a guy that was heading up Helping Hands ministry, and he basically they would allow him to have like a blank check to do whatever he wanted, but he was a trusted member of the community. Like he was there for like 20 years or something like that, maybe a little less than that, but for a long time. And he was a brilliant guy. He would people would come in, and he like he was a lawyer. He was able to help settle their accounts, their wills, whatever, and then also help people financially. But he wouldn't just like cut them a check. He would say, okay, so where are you living right now? What is this? And part of the help that he would give them is he'd actually get to know them. He'd figure out their needs. And he's like, okay, if you want our help with this, here are some things we're going to need from you, and here's what we can do. Like, and they had people on there. My dad was doing Helping Hands. They had like a bunch of older guys that are able to like help out and like help move or get furniture or whatever. And they have a warehouse full of like furniture if they need it. And that's really great. But even so, that was just one guy. And
well, and we would say like that's on the rehabilitation and development side. Yeah. Right. Because and that's the issue. Like the reason why it's so easy for people to go to relief is because it's really, and I'm not, and hear me, relief has a good and right place in the kingdom. Right. Like giving out food, doing those things have a good and right place. They just can't be the only thing. Right. And it's easy because like that takes no relationship. Like for me to give you $5 and then send you on the way, there's no relationship. I don't have to do anything else. I feel good about myself. You got what you asked for. Right. But the rehabilitation development, that takes time. That takes relationship. That takes me sitting down and compassion. Like in the word compassion, I don't know if you've heard the meaning. Compassion, like it's Latin for suffer with, right? Oh, and so like that's why they call it the passion of the Christ, because passion is suffering. Yeah. And so like to have compassion with somebody means to actually sit down with them and experience that, what they're going through. Like it's hard to hear somebody's story and not be changed, which I mean honestly, like I feel like that's one of the big issues in where we've moved to now, is that people we don't see people as people anymore. Like we see them as left or right, as woke or not woke or whatever. Like there's real people with real hurt, and all that's kind of thrown out the window right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely in the political sphere, and Christians and non-Christians, I suppose. I mean, Yeah, so I came from the gay community. Actually, the Lord brought me out of that, and I was in there for about like 10 years or something like that. And the amount of like, there's not a lot of Christians that I know that have like actually interacted with people that are struggling with same-sex attraction. And usually, what it is just like it's immediate like disgust, and it's like, well, yes, what those things are they're disgusting, wicked, and dirty. But that's a person, and like the sexual sin, that person is sinning against their own body, right? And so it's like, can you not have like some compassion? That person didn't just get there. There was things that were going on that led them to that place. And just kind of going back to the poverty thing, Shalom in the garden, all this sort of things. I love how that story goes, and how what is the first thing that God does, even though he's like omniscient and he knows everything. He goes, who told you were naked?
Yeah.
Like he starts asking questions to them.
Yeah, that's
you
good.
know, and that's exactly how we get to the heart of what the problem is. And also, if there's something that needs repentance for it, that's how we bring people to repentance, is finding out like, well, did you know it was wrong? Or like, I mean, not only just that, but like getting to be known, because that is what our desire is, really, to be known. And that is what our chief end of man is, for us to glorify God and to take joy in him forever, and that's really about us being known as individuals and knowing God as who he is.
There's a problems. So I went through ALF, which is American Leadership Forum, and it's like super amazing. They did like a small little cohort, and there's this problem solving technique that if my staff is listening to this, they'll laugh, because I've ad nauseum I use this for everything, and it's called the iceberg model.
Okay.
And it's it's incredible. And so basically the way it works is like, so like let's take an issue.
Okay.
Let's okay, your AC goes out. Okay. And so that's the event. So you would say, okay, what are some of the patterns that we've seen that have led up to this? Well, it's been kind of hokey for weeks. Like, it keeps going on, coming off, whatever. All right, okay, cool. Okay. Then you say, okay, what are some of the systems that have led to this? Well, like, I don't have people that regularly come out. Like, I don't have anybody scheduled to come out, whatever. Like, there's not a real system for that. And the last part that we look at is like mental models, right? And so, like, what are the beliefs that are contributing to this? And so, like, maybe for me, it's like, well, this is really terrible. AC is probably the worst one to use. I don't know why I started with that. I was very confident.
It was kind of working skills for me, but also I'm like,
yeah, okay. No, let's not use that. So I'll give you a real life one. Sorry. Okay. So we had a couple of team members that had some conflict and didn't know how to figure it out, right? And so one of the team members came to me, and so they were looking like, hey, here's the event. I try to talk to them about this, and I just feel like I can't work with this person, whatever. I'm like, cool. And then we're talking about, well, what are some of the patterns? Well, when I talk to them about this, it doesn't connect. And we keep going back and forth, whatever. Okay, cool. Are there any systems we put in place? Well, we realized there's not really a system for accountability. So maybe that contributed to it, or maybe there's not a maybe you guys just need a solid, like, y'all don't have a plan of like this happens and then this happens, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so most of the time you might stop there, right, and say, okay, the problem's fixed. We figured out X, Y, Z. But the last stage of that is what we call like mental models. Like, what are the deeply held beliefs that are contributing to this, right? Yeah. And so, like, I mean, you look to attack anything with that, right?
Well, that's why you get into like golden calves and like personal idols.
100%.
People get upset.
And so as we're doing this with these two team members, like, so we're talking through, well, like, what are some of those deeply held beliefs for you? Because you don't want to do it for the other person, because we don't want to. We're not getting, like, they can say
maybe
what
you're
they
selfish.
Believe. Yeah, exactly. And so what the team member realized is, like, they had some trauma from other people in their lives, and that because of that, they were viewing this person through the same trauma, and so they weren't even approaching the spirit of reconciliation, because they had judged. They were envisioning that this person was going to act the same way as the people that had hurt them acted, and so they weren't even giving them the benefit of the doubt. And so that changed the conversation, because if you would have just dealt with, okay, we need to put some systems in place, then the depth of change wouldn't have happened. And so now, instead of just, hey, like, we fixed, now there's actual reconciliation. There's reconciliation for them to realize, and now they get to go and have reconciliation with the other person. And so the iceberg model we use for everything, because it's insanely helpful, right? Like, it helps get to the heart of what's actually going on.
And it also kind of like, almost it turns it less into an accusing game. I feel like, and part of that also questions help. Like so like maybe you're selfish. Or like, well, do you think that might be selfish? Like asking that kind of question rather than like just sort of assuming somebody might be going, because it might not even be that. Maybe they're scared.
Yeah, until you get to the belief system, because I mean, you think about the gospel, right? Like you think about, okay, hey, we want this person to come to Christ, let's go, and so we're like, okay, hey, we're gonna get them into a Bible study, we're gonna do X, Y, Z, and all those things are good and right, but until the heart changes, the systems don't matter,
right?
Like, because you can have functional atheists that go to church, that tithe, that show up in a church choir, that are doing all those things, and yet their hearts are really far away from God. Right. And they can be on boards, they can be trustees, they can doing all that, and their hearts can still be far away from God, and they can have no knowledge of who Jesus really is outside of what they've, the scripture that they think they know.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, and even so, not even necessarily like an atheist, but just like people that that need to be known in a certain way, and then they just don't ever get asked the right questions about that, and then they still get into these places where they're in like positions where they're supposed to be helping other people, and then they haven't ever been helped in that area themselves, and they're trying to cope in it. And I'm speaking for myself, and I'm like everybody's just trying to do their best whenever they get presented with a problem, but sometimes it's like, you really needed somebody to ask you these questions. Like, is this something that you're going through, or is this something that you're dealing with, or is this something that you're holding on to? Yeah.
I think about our guy who, the 67-year-old man that we talked about, who like, hey, we asked him about discipleship. And he's like, I've never been discipled, and I can't disciple anybody else. I don't know that. Like that deeply held belief is that I can't do this. Like this is not, and it was like he's brilliant dude, like can fix anything in the world, do whatever, and this was a spot where it's like he had no confidence in it, right? Which is wild to me. Like, it's grown up in the church, has been in the church, like is a really faithful dude, like super loving, really kind. And for discipleship, there's just this block of like, no, this is not, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. So mental models, man.
And it's really tough, at least with like learning discipleship. A lot of these things, and my dad discipled me pretty. Like we used to wake up in the morning and we'd all read Psalms. We'd read Psalms and Proverbs all in a month, and so we did it as a family. That was really great. I didn't realize how much that would help me later on with just like remembering verses and stuff like that. Yeah. But there are just some things that I notice now that my parents do, at least with me and whatnot. And I'm like, that's terrible. Like, why would you say that? Why would you say,
One of my favorite phrases is both can be true. Because we wrestled this with my parents, like, we didn't even tell the story, but like, so I found out that I was adopted like 2 years ago.
Oh, I think
like,
I remember you telling me.
Yeah, like wild stuff, right? And so I had to wrestle with this, like my parents did the best they can, right? But they also caused some hurt, and both of these things can be true together. Yeah. And sometimes we're like, oh, it has to be one or the other. Either like you give them a pass and everything's good, or you're just like, no, y'all are just terrible, whatever. But both of these things can be true. Like you can have somebody who like led really well and there's some really good memories, and also cause some hurt and pain. Right.
Yeah. And I think the line between honoring and dishonoring them comes with, have you reconciled with the hurt? Because problems with my dad was that there was a physical altercation between us, but I mean that wasn't in a vacuum. I was supplanting his household with, like, I had just come out as gay, and I was telling them that I didn't want to do things. And it's actually kind of a funny story. I told him that there was a big dump in the toilet in the morning, and I was going to work, and I go in there, and it was way too big to be mine, and it was way too big to be Joseph's, and I said, Dad, there's a big old dump in the toilet seat. It can't be mine. It's too big to be Joseph's, so it's got to be yours, And I was just kind of like pushing him a little bit, and he comes up and he's like smiling, and then he goes and he pushes me into the wall and he starts yelling at me. And it's like kind of out of nowhere, but it wasn't really out of nowhere, And so I talked to him later on. I was like, this is many years later. Like I'd moved out twice, bad relationship, but he was still there for me in a lot of different ways. He'd show up, he'd help me with my car, The relationship was still there. He was praying for me. He did a 7-day fast for me, and like crazy stuff. Like I didn't even realize he was doing behind the scenes. But I went back later and I said, Dad, I love you, and I want you to know that I forgive you for all the stuff that's gone on between us. But I also have to tell you that I don't believe what you did was right in that situation. The wrath of man does not produce. Yeah, the anger of man does
not produce the righteousness of God.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And and he goes, son, you know what, I believe you're right, and I'm sorry. And I had no reason to believe that he was actually going to apologize. But, you know, I don't think that would have come from me not having to forgive him first, like reconciling with the pain that he caused me, knowing that, like, I mean, his dad caused him a lot of pain, and knowing from the stuff that happened there, like, his dad was way worse to them than he was to us. Yeah. And, you know, just that hurt people kind of old adage, you know.
Dude. So forgiveness is a command, right? Like but like to reconcile like takes two people, and sometimes that's not always possible.
Right.
Like we're commanded to forgive. Like that is not an option, and work through that however we need to. But sometimes it's just like you have to have two people that are willing to come. Like not every parent, most parents don't apologize. Right.
Yeah. Right. And I didn't think he was, you know, I'm going into that, but he's a godly man, you know, and he knows the scripture, and we're able to talk about that, and you know, praise God for that. Without God, my relationship wouldn't have been reconciled with my dad. Like, I mean, it would have been reconciled to me, I suppose, with me and God. Like, okay, I'd said my piece, you know, but we wouldn't have been reconciled, you know. Yeah. And I mean, that was super helpful because I lived with them for like the next 4 years, and I was able to buy this house because of it. So praise God, all because of him.
Dude, eight siblings, man, 7 siblings.
Well, they weren't all my dad's and my mom. So my dad had his first marriage, and then his wife got cancer and died, and they had 3 kids. And then my mom, her first husband, before she was a Christian, she became a Christian when she was married to him. He was an alcoholic, left them, and then she got a divorce. Then he died, and so they had 3 kids. And they knew each other because my mom started going to my dad's church, and all the kids knew each other, and they're like, we should just marry Mr. Mills or Mr. Southard. Yeah. So all the kids got together, and after 2 months, they got married and had 2 kids. Not in 2 months, but you know, me and my sister Anna.
Dude, kids are great wingmans.
Yeah, totally, right.
Like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, and it was really good for a lot of time. And you know, my dad, again, wasn't a perfect dad, but I don't know a lot of people, especially around that time period, that would take on like 5 kids, you know, after them already having 3. Like, he worked a plant job, basically sacrificed his life to be able to do that, and would still read to us, you know. So, like, he was there the way he could be, and he provided for 8 kids growing up. So I respect him very much.
I want to see a picture of that family at some point.
Yeah, you have to come by that. Like, my parents have we have photos there. If you'd like to. I don't know. You're living in Friendswood. Yeah, we'll talk after this. Okay. Cool. I'll have to have you over. Yeah. Because it's a really cool story with my parents' house also, because it was a church that he went to, and his pastor, Mr. Mosley, he always said that Mr. Mosley was the only pastor that he really had, because he lived with him, like, and they did life together, basically. It was with him all the time. They built the church that was on that property, and so Mr. Mosley then sold the property to my dad. It was like 3.5 acres in Pasadena that he bought for $10,000 from his pastor. And so, like, we would not be, like, we lived in a trailer house over on that property, just off. It wasn't even our property. And then eventually, just like, it was that social capital thing, you know, they were doing well. We had a big family. He was taking care of a big family, and he was like, I'll sell you this place for that much. And again, the Lord providing, you know. So
that's amazing, man.
Yeah, it's a great story of restoration for that, because I mean, what my mom went through with her dad, I don't know everything with my siblings. Well, she wasn't perfect. I don't even need to get into that. Yeah. But just back to sort of what's going on. Let's see. Yeah, I suppose we've been going for a while, so we're at 10 o'clock. Are you tired? You got stuff you got to go? No. Maybe just let me look at the questions real quick. So we talked about the vision for G.U.M. How has being in the ministry changed your life? You got married out of it. I mean, answer part of that.
Yeah, I mean, even being executive director, man, like, it's like, this is not where I ever thought I'd be, you know. But I think, like, Josh, our founder, is just, he's like a brother, man. Like, the way that he helped train me and grow me up, because I was really immature, you know, and I'm still immature in some ways, but like, the patience that he showed to me, the kindness that he showed to me, you know, I can, like, even when I was mad at him, like, there were some times where I was angry, and man, like, the amount of grace that he showed. My first year of marriage was really hard. We both had trauma and trying to work it out, and I didn't know that we were going to make it past the first year. And having a friend like Josh that would like come alongside, that like literally gave us space to like we left work and went to Dallas to stay with friends of ours to help like process through all the stuff that we were going through. And he was like, go, like, take care of your wife, take care of your bride, figure that out. I mean, I truly think like if it wasn't for like him and people like him, I don't know that we would have made it past our first year. Like social capital, a tribe is so important. So I can even now, even with this job, like, it's funny, like I didn't take this job because I wanted to be executive director. Like I took it because I wanted to steward his legacy really well. I didn't want anybody else coming in to do that. And I was like, I saw this as like I'm not equipped for this job. I don't think I have skills for this job, but I'm going to do it because like I'm being obedient to the Lord, and I want to make sure that what we have stays, right? And so, but then as I'm in it, I'm seeing that like all the stuff that the Lord has brought up in me, that has developed in me through the years, is now coming to fruition. You know, like it's like he's like all like I don't know, it's just like coming together, you know. And so, and it's been really beautiful to see.
I feel like I can sort of imagine you as still a furniture salesperson, and you would just be like so less yourself. I feel like
I hate sales, man.
Yeah, I do too. But you know how many times people have told me I'd do great at sales, and like, and I've actually kind of gotten into a little bit, and then I've gotten into a couple pyramid schemes. And somebody tried to get me to sell insurance, and I started, and I was going into it, and I was like, okay, I actually kind of like believe in the service that we're doing, you know. And then they said, no, you don't sell people what you think they need. You sell them the biggest package you can. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that.
No, I used to sell knives. There's a company called Cutco.
Oh, okay.
And they like the whole thing is like you would take a penny and you would cut it with these scissors to show how sharp they were. Yeah, man. And it was just like, I'm like, you don't need these things. I'm just so expensive. And they would give me $15 as long as I had a meeting with somebody. And it was just like, I hate this so much. It's so terrible. It drained every part of my soul. So, yeah. And
I feel like that's what it comes down to for me, and I'm sure for you as well. It's like, you're not a salesman if you're being an evangelist, right? It's like, it's the highest calling that you can. You know, God gives us the greatest significance that we could ever have. And so praise him for that.
I mean, it's different because like with Jesus is like, hey, like this is something you need. Like it's like I'm not trying to sell you something, you know, put another treadmill in your house for it to be a clothes rack. Like
this is real life change.
Yeah, like I'm trying to give you something that is gonna drastically change your life for the rest. Like you're hurting and you're in need, and this is what I'm trying to give you. So
like this is healing. This is the words for eternal life.
And I think it's easier to sell something that you believe in. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I kind of believed in the product, but I didn't really believe in the company. And then I was talking to my buddy, and he's like, "So wait, you're just like a middleman for these insurance companies. So why can't I just go to them?" I'm like, "Well, I guess he could, but then,
but then
I wouldn't be needed." I'm like, "Oh well, what am I a parasite?" All right, so back to the questions. Let's see, and we're almost done. A lot of this, what's left, is like talking about how people can get in. Yeah, what is your personal advice for someone that would like to get into ministry but isn't sure how?
Oh, man, internships are really great ways. Like internships and volunteering, especially if you're working another job and you're not sure if you want to take that jump. Like go volunteer with the ministry first, right? Like go get plugged in. And I would say like if you're going to volunteer, like be consistent. And then if you don't feel like it's for you, like get off the horse really quickly. Like have those conversations, and because sometimes people get pulled into stuff and they'll be like, if I leave, then there's nobody else to step in, and that is so prideful, because what you're saying is that the Lord can't handle this, that everything depends on me, right? And it might, I heard a guy say this at this conference I went to, and it stuck with me for all my life. He was speaking about like purpose and calling, and this dude was like, hey, like I do all this stuff for my church, and if I leave my church, there's no one, and I'm afraid that it's going to fail. And the guy looked him straight in the face at this paid conference and say, then it'll fail. It's the Lord's job. The Lord is the one who brings things up and lets them fall. You're putting yourself in the place of God, and that's not where you're supposed to be. And so I say all that to say, like, volunteer, intern for places, and then if it's not the right fit, then have those conversations early. You don't want to be that person to be bitter and angry while you're trying to do this job. Like, that sucks, right? And so I would also say, like, man, I've been in ministry my whole life, and the Lord has never not seen me through. Because I think that's a worry too for people, is like, if I go into this, like, what about my family and what about whatever, man, there's provision. I heard somebody say this, that the word provision, the idea is that it's the Lord providing for the vision. So whatever vision that he has given you for your life, he will provide for it. And he'll provide. And dude, when we bought our house, we used all of our savings to get through the down payment. And there was times when we were worried about going to the grocery store and not having any money. And the Lord, like, provided again and again. Like, we've never been out of food. We've never been out of electricity. Like, the Lord has taken care of us. And not that he's a coin machine, but if the Lord calls you to something, he will provide for it, because he's a good father.
Amen.
That's what good fathers do.
Right. That's how I feel kind of about this house. I was going into it, and I'm like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bunch of people in. I'm going to get some roommates in. I'll be making money and everything like that, and I haven't gotten any roommates in.
Yeah.
And the person that really kind of gave me the encouragement to get the house, and I do believe that the Lord was, like, pushing me to do this. I was living at my parents' house and not able to do, like, stuff like this, but like, every time I'd start to feel kind of underwater about, like, oh my goodness, there's so much stuff here. There's payments going up, and I had a payment that went up, and I just, like, get everything down, and then I look at how much I'm making. I go, wow, the Lord is actually providing for all my needs in this. Like, I'm okay.
Dude, our payment went up by $900.
Oh my gosh!
Like, like, out of nowhere, and we fought and couldn't get it down, and found out, it was something with the homestead stuff. But like, even that, and like the Lord has provided.
Property tax.
Yeah, the Lord has provided. Like, even with my adoption story, like, we found my bio father.
Yeah, I talked
dude,
about
and
that.
The kindest dude I've ever met in my life. Like, just great man. And again, provision. The Lord provided for that.
Yeah.
Right, and so I would press you to say, like, ministry is hard, but it's fulfilling. Like, it's like, yeah.
Well, part of my vision for this is, like, I feel like I've always been kind of good, like, connecting people and whatnot, and helping out in different ways that I can. And I think a lot of times what ministries need is, like, some visibility. And so I was like, well, this is how I can help. And so there's a board I'm on for Christian Coalition for Reconciliation. I'm hoping to have Michael Newman on at some point, but he speaks, like, 4 different languages. And he was part of Exodus. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It was an ex-gay ministry that was really big and had its breaking apart. There was, like, a guy that got to the top that, like, totally smashed the whole thing. It was a crazy story behind it. I think he's tired of talking about it, though.
Sure.
But he, but part of my, like, he wants to write a book. And so I've been, like, helping talk to him about that. And he's been going through some health problems, so I haven't talked to him recently about it. But, like, just, like, kind of different areas that I feel like other ministries need help in, or at least like how I can help as best I can. I feel like doing that sort of things, and then that I get to meet interesting people. I get to talk to them. I get to, like, show what people are doing. Like the kingdom work, that sort of thing. Like, help maybe get people excited about it. Yeah. So I mean, that's part of the vision for here, and God has provided. He has provided the vision.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we are hiring right now, so we're looking for a children's director, and we're looking for a development director, so, like, somebody to write grants and stuff like that.
Really? So, I'm interested in that, actually. Yeah, I'll talk about that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So, what does a child director do?
So the children's director, like, so the same stuff that we do with youth, they do with children with that age group.
Okay.
So,
that's what I have. I have a small group of the 7th grade guys and everything like that, and so we just got done with that, and then I'll have on Sunday.
Let's
go. So one of the things that I was that they're actually really good at, but they didn't realize that they needed to do it, was homework on Sundays. And so I started giving the kids homework.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you know about Psalm 119, but it's an acrostic, and so it basically goes. An acrostic is it goes through every letter of the alphabet, and so A, B, C. So A, apple, B, banana. That's an acrostic. Yeah. And so, but it's an acrostic for the Hebrew alphabet. Yeah, okay. And so what it was designed to do was teach children how to learn the Hebrew alphabet, and for 2, why they should love and hide God's word in their heart. So it goes through, each letter is an acrostic for about 7 to 8 verses. And so it's like, it talks about why the commandments of God are good, why his precepts are good, why like all these things, and it like goes over and over and over
That's so
again.
cool.
It really is.
Yeah.
And basically that's what they would teach children with.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what I started having them do was I'd have them they'd have to draw the Hebrew letter, the caricature, and then they'd all have to write out what it is, like with the verse.
Nice.
And so we go through each letter of the week. And so they're like, are we learning Hebrew? And I was like, I don't know. If you learn the alphabet, that's how you start.
I love that, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Let's talk more about that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
let's talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I guess so. Talking to people about how they get into ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how can people get a hold of you? Like how, the website or like your contacts?
So website's super easy. It's just www.gumtx, so gum Texas, but gumtx.org. Super easy. And then my email address, people are welcome to email me too. So Brandon@gumtx.org. Okay. So super easy. So like if people have a question about like getting into ministry or maybe they don't want to go into like poverty alleviation, but another kind of ministry, like we have connects all over the place. So we're happy to like partner and reach out and do whatever. And we also do trainings. So like church training. So like if churches want to know how to engage with their community well, like we do trainings on that. We have a like asset-based community development. So like if you have people we have a game based that does
that's right. I want to talk to you about the game also, because that you designed that yourself. It was really cool. A lot of fun. Like I feel like there was I'm sorry just to speak about it because I got excited is having to like present a ministry to like a board and talking about. I'll just let you go ahead and talk about it because it was I thought it was great.
Yeah, so I'm a huge nerd. So I love like D&D. Like it's I love the storytelling aspect and the communal, like your storytelling with friends, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that we wrestled with was if you've been to GUM 4 or 5 times, you've done the other side of Galveston tour 4 or 5 times, right? And which is basically like a scavenger hunt through the neighborhood that shows you like real world poverty, what it looks like. And so for us, like we wanted to develop something that was that next level. So for those people who are like, hey, I've done this, now how do I actually do work that's going to change? And so we basically have this game that walks students and leaders through what it means to be asset-based community developers. And so they have to interview a person of peace, talk to them about, hey, what are the challenges in your community? So they practice their interview skills. Then they have to actually build a game plan. So they make a budget, and they practice going to grant foundation to make a pitch, right? And then we give them a grant amount, and then they have to take that and figure it out. And they're figuring out if they want to get jobs here, if they want to work here, and all of these things have different challenges, right? And so let's say for housing, they decide to get a house in a really nice neighborhood, right? But it's further away from the mission site. And so they don't have as much time to put towards the mission. But then when stuff happens, it's like their landlord is really attentive. And so if their pipe breaks, they're able to get that fixed really quickly. Whereas if they lived in this more kind of lower income area, that might not happen.
And you get like lower roles, or like you have to make a higher threshold if you're living farther away, if that's successful in like repairing it.
Yeah, 100%. Like stuff like that. And so what we've heard is it's been really good. And there's challenges, like, so once they get through the kind of development phase, they get to the action phase. And so there's challenges that they're going across, like, hey, your house got broken into and whatever, like, how do you handle that? Or there's a guy who's coming off the street that's a convict that wants a job, like, how do you handle that? And so they have to walk through all these challenges, figure out stuff. And so it's been really good because they learn public speaking, they learn how to like basics of writing a grant.
Y'all were like really real and about how we were supposed to present everything to a foundation. Going in there, it was like, okay, it was very, I don't know, say cold, but it was like very professional. And so it's like, all right, you're really presenting yourself about what you should do. So the first time we went in, I was and y'all gave us a bunch of notes. I was like, all right, we need to scrap all that. Okay, we need a script.
I know.
And then we actually we went outside and we started rehearsing like crazy and doing it. Yeah. And everybody was telling us like, y'all aren't gonna have enough time. They're not gonna let you do it. And they said, no, they told us they were gonna do it. And so we waited by the door. And as soon as the door opened, we're like, hey, we're here for our meeting. And it was really great. Like my heart was beating. Like kids' heart was beating. Like it was like
I forgot you did that.
Enlarging the it felt like enlarging the heart. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's like it's cool because like we've heard like it was for a lot of people, it's their favorite thing that they do as far as that development piece,
Sure.
because it's so like it puts in so many things, and we try to keep the team small enough because the goal is for everybody to have a piece in that.
Right.
So it also shows like, you know, we talk about the like what assets do you bring to the table, because sometimes people don't even think about that. They don't even realize like, okay, what has God gifted me with? And so I love it. It's one of my favorite things we do. It's intense and it's tough. Like even that, like I'm typically like a, you know, smiley kind of happy person.
Totally different.
Totally different. Like it's like Shark Tank, you know. So
I heard one of the kids was like, "All right, thank you, Sharks," and then it was like, that didn't play well at all. Like they didn't laugh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And also the real life situation things, where it seems like, you know, you think, okay, I know the answer really easily, and I think the game aspect is where it gets competitive.
Yeah.
And it is actually kind of similar to how it would be in real life, because these people are like thinking, well, we only have so much money, you know, it's like we want to be successful, so I don't know if we can like help this guy out, you know, that kind of thing, or it's like, or we're scared to do so, you know.
Well, and you know what's funny is like God convicted me about that, and so because what I realized was, so the last time we did it, we actually changed it up, and because we asked this question when we got to the end, because you have the points and scores, and everybody's cheering for like, yeah, we won. I was like, cool, that's great.
We were all on the same team.
But why? Why are you cheering that another team lost? That another team's ministry wasn't effective, or that they didn't have money to do what they need to, or whatever. Like that's, and which we wrestle with that, right? Because we want to be the best nonprofit there is on the island, but that can put you in a place where we're not helping our friends, we're not serving our friends, we're not learning from our friends, right? Like Big C Kingdom, we are part of the body of Christ, and like if one part of the body fails, the rest of the part of the body can fail too. So
right, and I just thinking about how, because I in the middle of that I was like, no, well, we're all on the same team, aren't we? But I still got sucked into the whole, you know, everyone is competitive, like, oh, these people are gonna lose, they're gonna lose, and we're like, oh, we're close, you know. And it's a real thing, you know. It's like we need to remember that the church isn't just like each individual church is, or it's not Methodist, it's not Baptist, it's the believers, it's the believers of God, you know, believers and worshipers of God. Brandon, you know, I was actually, I didn't get much sleep at all last night because I was excited about this. And I was like, please, Lord, give me rest. And then I was like, well, maybe he gave me the right amount of rest for me to be like, at least no filter. So, but I think that covers a lot of stuff. Was there anything you want to say, or like tell anybody that might be listening?
We always need volunteers. We always need donors.
I'm seriously interested. Yeah,
dude.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about it. All right,
cool.
And signing off. Thank you for watching.
Deuces.
Great. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you to Brandon for coming out and talking to me for over 2 hours. If you want to support this content, then please drop a like and subscribe. We have videos coming out on Saturdays at noon. May the Lord bless you and keep you.